Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really zeroing in on something that I think can take a huge amount of pressure off for anyone facing the IELTS Writing Task 2, and that's smart planning. Think of it maybe not just as, saving time, but more as a way to feel actually in control when you see that essay prompt.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We want to give you a really concrete approach, a method really, to meet that blank page with some direction, not just uncertainty.
Exactly. And here's our goal for this deep dive. We're breaking down a 3-minute planning strategy. And the idea is that this has the potential to seriously improve your essay quality and, yes, give you back some of that really precious exam time for the actual writing.
Yeah, and our insights today, they're drawn from the Fluentify English Podcast, specifically their advice on tackling the IELTS writing section. They have some very, very grounded, practical tips.
And listen, this isn't just about, ticking a box for time management. It's more fundamental. It's about how you organize your thoughts right from the word go. This kind of focused planning, it directly feeds into how coherent your essay ends up being, and importantly, how well you actually address the question. And these are major things the IELTS examiners are looking for.
That's such a critical point. Examiners aren't simply counting words, are they? They're really assessing the logical flow of your arguments and whether you've truly engaged with all parts of the prompt. And that foundation, well, it's built in those first few planning moments.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Why should we even, spend precious exam minutes on planning? When that clock's ticking down, isn't it just better to jump straight into writing?
Well, it feels like it might be, doesn't it? But let's think about the potential downsides. What tends to happen if you just dive in without a clear plan?
Well, I guess you could easily go off topic. Your ideas might feel a bit jumpy, no real connection between them.
Yeah.
You might get halfway through and suddenly realize, oh, I haven't actually answered what they asked. And by then, you've burned through valuable time and, frankly, mental energy.
Precisely. You risk ending up with disorganized points, maybe repeating yourself without meaning to, or even writing stuff that isn't truly relevant to the question asked. It's a bit like trying to navigate a new city without a map.
Okay, yeah.
You might get there eventually, but it'll probably take longer and involve a lot of, unnecessary detours and backtracking.
That makes total sense. So planning is essentially our roadmap for the essay. It gives you that focus, that structure, even before you write the first sentence.
And it directly impacts those key IELTS scoring criteria we mentioned earlier, coherence and task response.
Right.
An essay that's been properly planned out is just inherently more coherent because your ideas follow a logical path. Coherence means your points flow smoothly, maybe using clear linking words, good paragraph structure, and you're much more likely to fully hit the task, what the question actually wants you to do, if you've taken that initial moment to properly understand it and break it down. Task response is all about answering all parts of the question directly without adding fluff.
Okay, so the why is clear. Planning is vital.
Sure.
Now, let's get practical. What are the actual steps in this 3-minute strategy you mentioned?
It's pretty straightforward, actually. A 3-part process, and ideally, each part takes about 1 minute.
Okay.
So, the first minute, analyze the question carefully. Second minute, brainstorm your main ideas quickly. And the final minute, sketch out a basic essay outline.
Got it. 1 minute each. So minute 1, analyze the question. What's the top priority in that first minute?
The absolute most important thing is to read that question very, very attentively. Don't just skim it.
Right.
Really engage with the words. The advice from Fluentify strongly suggests underlining of the key terms. What are the main subjects? What specific task are you being asked to perform?
Okay, so if the question is about, say, the pros and cons of something like remote work, then remote work pros, cons, those would be keywords.
Exactly. And the next really vital step in this first minute is figuring out the essay type. Are they asking for your opinion? Do you need to discuss different views? Is it maybe a problem-solution format? Recognizing that essay type right away heavily influences your structure and your whole approach. You wouldn't write an agree-disagree essay the same way you'd write a discuss-both-views essay.
That's a really good point. Yeah, it sets the whole framework.
It really does. And maybe one final thing for this first minute. Try just quickly paraphrasing the question in your own words, just mentally, or jot it down.
Oh, interesting. Why?
It's just a simple check. It makes sure you fully grasped what's being asked, and it helps stop you drifting off track later when you're writing. It confirms you really understand.
Okay, minute 1 done. Question understood. Now minute 2. Brainstorming ideas.
Yeah.
What's the main goal here? Just get stuff down.
Pretty much. The focus is speed and relevance. You want to quickly generate your main arguments or points that directly address the question. Aim for, say, 2 or 3 main ideas. Don't get bogged down in fancy phrasing or details yet, just the core concepts. Some people find it useful to ask themselves, so what, after an initial idea?
So what?
Yeah, like if your idea is public transport reduces pollution, asking, so what, might lead you to improving air quality in cities or lowering carbon footprint. It just pushes you a bit deeper, perhaps.
So in this quick brainstorm, it's about getting relevant thoughts out there, not making them perfect.
Exactly. Generate efficiently. And crucially, alongside each main idea you note down, just briefly think, do I have a potential supporting example or maybe some evidence I could use later?
Right.
Doesn't need to be detailed at this stage, just a quick mental check or maybe one keyword to remind yourself.
Okay, so not just the what, but a tiny hint of the why or how you might back it up. Makes sense. Which brings us to the final minute of the plan, outlining the essay.
Yep, this is where you build the skeleton, the basic framework for your essay. Think of it as your writing blueprint. Typically, you'll aim for that standard structure. An introduction, probably 2 or 3 body paragraphs, and then a conclusion.
And in this last minute, we're basically deciding which of those brainstormed ideas goes into which body paragraph.
That's it, exactly. Assign one main idea or argument per body paragraph. And in your outline, just jot down the core points for each of those sections. They don't need to be full sentences.
Just keywords.
Keywords, short phrases, just enough to remind you of your main points and the logical order you want them in.
So, like, a few bullet points for the intro, each body paragraph, the conclusion. Enough to guide you, but not so much that you're basically writing the essay twice.
Precisely. The outline is your guide. It keeps you on track, stops you rambling or jumping between unrelated ideas as you actually write.
Okay, this 3-minute structure, analyze, brainstorm, outline, wow, that actually seems really manageable. Let's try and see how it works with a typical IELTS question. How about that sample one? Some people believe that governments should invest more in public transportation, while others argue that road infrastructure is more important. Discuss both views and give your opinion.
Excellent example. Let's apply our 3-minute plan.
Go.
In minute 1, analyze. What keywords jump out at you?
Definitely governments, invest, public transportation, and road infrastructure. And also the instructions. Discuss both views and give your opinion. So that tells me straight away it's a discussion essay. Need both sides plus my own view.
Perfect analysis. Okay, minute 2, brainstorm quick ideas for both sides.
Okay, for public transport, less pollution maybe. Ease traffic jams in cities.
Good.
Also makes things fairer for people without cars. For roads, well, it seems vital for the economy, moving goods around.
Right.
And maybe essential for people in, like, rural areas where there isn't much else.
Great points covering both sides. And what about your opinion? Just a quick thought.
Probably something balanced, like we need both, but maybe how much depends on the place, specific needs of a city or country.
Sounds like a solid stance. Okay, final minute. Outline. How would you structure it based on those ideas?
Right. Intro, set the scene, state my balanced approach idea.
Yeah.
Then body paragraph 1, arguments of public transport, pollution, access. Body paragraph 2, arguments for roads, economy, rural areas. And then conclusion. Summarize both sides, restate my balanced view.
There you go. See how that works. And potentially just 3 minutes. You've dissected the question, you've got relevant points for both sides, you've considered your opinion, and you have a clear plan.
Yeah.
This kind of proactive step just sets you up for a much more focused, coherent writing process. Less chance of getting stuck or wandering off.
Absolutely. It really does remove that horrible feeling of just staring at the prompt, completely blank, wondering where on earth to start. So, okay, beyond this core 3-minute strategy, what other sort of time management tips are crucial for the IELTS writing test?
Well, the Fluentify sources really stress sticking to a strict timeline overall. For Task 2, they specifically recommend allowing no more than about 5 minutes total for all your planning.
5 minutes total. So our 3-minute strategy fits nicely within that, maybe leaving a moment or two extra wiggle room.
Exactly. Plan efficiently so you don't eat into your actual writing time. Another key piece of advice is about language. Use clear, concise language in your essay.
Right.
Avoid the trap of using overly complex words or really tangled sentences just to try and impress the examiner. Clarity is key. Focus on getting your ideas across effectively directly.
That makes sense. Clarity and just being straightforward are probably valued more than sounding unnecessarily academic.
Absolutely. And that clarity, it links back to coherence too, doesn't it? Examiners like well-structured sentences, paragraphs that are easy to follow, and crucially, always, always save the last few minutes of the test time for proofreading.
Yes, the final check.
It's your chance to catch those little grammar mistakes, spelling errors, maybe punctuation slip-ups that can drag your score down. It's amazing what you spot with fresh eyes at the end.
So planning at the start sets the direction, and proofreading at the end refines it, kind of like bookends for the writing process.
Precisely. And the advice rightly encourages practicing this whole thing, the planning, the writing, the proofreading, all under timed conditions. Do timed mock tests.
Yeah.
It's honestly the best way to build up your speed and your confidence.
Practice, practice, practice. It really is the key to getting comfortable and efficient with it, isn't it? Simulating the test conditions must help lower the anxiety on the day, too.
Definitely. By mimicking that environment, you just get better at managing the clock during planning and writing. And you're much less likely to feel, overwhelmed when the real exam begins.
So just to recap then, this 3-minute planning strategy, analyze, brainstorm, outline, it sounds like a genuinely valuable tool for anyone tackling IELTS writing task too.
It really is. It's not just about shaving off a few minutes. It's about building that solid foundation for a well-structured, coherent essay, and ultimately a higher scoring one.
Right. Better time management, clearer essays, more logical flow. Hopefully it all adds up to hitting that band score we're aiming for. And of course, like you said, consistent practice and just keeping calm, feeling confident on the day, those are the final ingredients.
Exactly. And, as we wrap up, it might be worth thinking about how this kind of focused planning applies more broadly. Well, breaking down a complex task, any complex task, into smaller, time-bound steps. It's not just for exams, it's a really useful life skill, isn't it? For any situation where clear communication and good organization matter.
That's such a great point to end on, thinking about how vital clear communication is everywhere. How else could this kind of focused planning, breaking things down into time steps, help us out beyond just getting through an exam like IELTS? Definitely something to ponder. Thanks for diving deep with us today.